Good morning. A lot of things happening this week, but we want to talk about a couple of things that happened last week. Certainly it was a bittersweet moment for the City of Pensacola with the retirement of Jimmy Donahoe. Jimmy has certainly been the face of PPD to many organizations. The work that he's done, certainly when you work somewhere for over 30 years, you certainly build there, but he, through what he did from the rest of his assignments and working with most of our not-for-profits, our connection with many of those outside of PPD and the general public, he played a significant role. In fact, as I said at his retirement, because of his role, in many ways, he was the face of PPD to many people, and it couldn't have been a better face that we had. He did an incredible job while he was here, and he will be missed sorely. But I'm very happy for he and his family. I know they have plans that they want to actually do, but it will be a significant loss to the city. We very much appreciate the work that he gave to this community and the face he gave to PPD. Sticking in PPD, I think last week we were not able to answer some of your questions you all had, but I think you saw very quickly afterwards that Officer Anthony Giorgio was recognized and awarded by the Department of Justice of Public Safety Officer Medal of Honor by the President of the United States at a ceremony in Washington, D.C. Officer Giorgio was recognized for his heroic actions in saving multiple people from drowning in the Gulf of Mexico on Mother's Day of 2021. And we also offer congratulations to Officer Giorgio. And we would have liked to have announced it last week. We were just a little bit premature, but it was a great event. And like I said before, there are so many great things that go on at PPD. They do for us all the time in saving the citizens of this community in so many different ways. It's hard to recognize just one, but he certainly was one well worth recognition, and we were very happy to see that the United States and the President recognized him. I guess Casey put this in here, but yes, I did receive the Hometown Hero just again for legislative purposes and recognizing individuals for their efforts during the 2022 legislative session. I certainly enjoyed being a part of it, but we're going to skip past that one and go on to the next one. Bike to Work Day is we have 15 representatives from the City of Pensacola, Bike Pensacola, and Ciclavia teamed up to Bike to Work Day this next Friday with a group that will be riding from Dunwoody Park to City Hall. The event will be held in conjunction with National Bike Month. Last Friday. It happened on Friday. Oh, gotcha. Yes, it did happen on Friday. I was not here. I was going to say I was not going to be here. So again, yes, I know they were a part of that. I was sorry I could not be here. I was in North Carolina, so I was not able to be here. So again, we had that one as well. Going forward, the City of Pensacola has been selected by EPA for a Brownfield Assessment Grant. The City of Pensacola has been selected for the Environmental Protection Agency to receive a $367,000 Brownfield Assessment Grant that will be used to conduct environmental assessments and prepare for cleanup of brownfield sites. Learn more about the funding and along with funding for community outreach. To learn more about the grant, visit cityofpensacola.com. The second meeting for future plans of West Jackson, the Reimagine West Jackson, which is a county initiative that the city is participating with. The community is invited to the second public hearing for Jackson Street Master Plan on Tuesday, May 24th from 5:30 to 7 at the Brownsville Community Center located at 3200 West DeSoto Street in Pensacola. And the public may also register to attend via Zoom. The meeting will provide the opportunity for the residents and business to review and input on the concepts of proposed improvements for West Jackson between A and Fairfield Drive. We hope you will take advantage and take a look at that. The goal of the project is to improve safety along with Jackson Street and make the road more pedestrian friendly while also enhancing existing neighborhoods and businesses in the area. To learn more at reimaginejacksonstreet.com. We certainly appreciate our ability to enter that agreement with the county and work to make that happen. We think it's important for our west side, and it's certainly important for the improvements that have been made to Palafox, that we look at what's going on and continuing to make Jackson a safe pedestrian and bike street. So we appreciate that. America's First Settlement Trail update. Installation is continuing on America's First Settlement Trail in downtown Pensacola. The 3-mile historic walking trail is a collaborative partnership between the City of Pensacola, Visit Pensacola, and A1S Trail Foundation. A1S Trail will run through the Pensacola Historic District, ultimately featuring a continuous brick trail with 20 historic bronze plaques and corresponding QR codes that will display information about Pensacola's history and landmarks along the way. Phase 1 is already begun earlier this month with the anticipation of Phase 1 completion in June of 22. Phase 1 will include a continuous maroon-colored painted line mirroring the chosen brick, which will eventually be installed on the entire trail. The painted line is scheduled to be installed as early as Tuesday, May 24th, with an estimated completion of May 27th with weather permitting. Based on this week's weather, I think we will be probably moving that back a little bit, but we're working through that. The public's patience is appreciated as the work continues on the trail. Please stay tuned for updates. And we fully understand there were a number of issues in the original placement of it. We had some differences of opinion. We're continuing to work through it. David and his team have been getting there. I think we're building a much more solid response for Phase 1. We obviously would love to go to Phase 2, which is a brick situation. I think it's a much better way, but for us to be able to get it moving forward, there was not the funding to do that, so we went with paint. There were some things we thought, some understanding, and no matter how well we worked through those, we had some things that happened, but I can assure you, everyone that is on there, we're working with all the citizens that live along there, that we're working to try to create the best solution we can. I know David and his team have been doing that. I know that where we're putting in new sidewalk already, we're placing the brick in the sidewalk. I would love to have done it all the way through. We continue to work with some, I know there were some citizens that showed up the other night. We've been continuing to work with them, and we've made a commitment to do whatever we need to get them through there. I will say that it did not come out exactly the way the city wanted to at first, but we're working through it and we're getting there. I know I got a call from David, and he was not all happy with the original when things went down. That was not his total understanding, but we're working through that. We think the ultimate goal of what it wants to achieve is a good thing. We do think there are certainly challenges as it went through, and we're trying to make sure we can correct those as much as possible, and we will be working with residents through that area to do whatever we can to make it as unobtrusive as possible. That was our goal, but we do believe the overall trail will be important in showing people the most important sites, and we think if we can find ways to do this trail, we can replicate it. We can replicate it in the DeVilliers area. I know Councilwoman Broughton has been very active in asking about a trail in the Belmont DeVilliers area and the west side, and I know that many people in North Hill have been asking about a similar type of trail, and I think it could be done in North Hill as well if we figure out, as we put forward, the first one here in the downtown area. So we continue to work through everything. I do believe that the idea and the thought behind it is certainly the right thing in the best way. We're still working through the execution of it, and we are working very diligently to make sure that we work with every homeowner, every property owner, to make sure it's done as unobtrusively as possible in a way that allows for people to see where to go and know where to walk, but to do it in a way that melds as well with the existing community. I think this is taken after what was done in Boston. I think you've seen Michael Cairo, who came to us with the idea. I think it is a good idea in the sense of it's easy for some people, and it's hard for sometimes people say, well, why don't you have a map or something else? Well, maps you got to print, you do it on your phone. Some people can get it, some people don't have access as well with technology. And I will say there are geographically challenged people like my wife sometimes who if you tell them north, they would say, where is that? So I think the line helps in a sense of helping people figure out the sites that we want them to show and the heritage that we want to do. And I think, again, if we can make it work in the core area, we certainly have the ability to replicate it in those areas like Belmont, DeVilliers, and North Hill that I know have expressed also interest in doing the same kind of thing. Mayor's Neighborhood Cleanup. The latest Mayor's Neighborhood Cleanup took place on Saturday in a portion of East Hill. The pickup collected 30 tons of bulk waste and 1,000 gallons of paint and 27 tires. The next neighborhood cleanup is scheduled for Saturday, June 25th. Today there will be a council meeting. The agenda review will be in this meeting, Heigler Mason, at 3:30, followed by a budget priorities workshop. Both meetings will take place here. Thursday, City Council will meet at 5:30 in the chambers. Memorial Day, closures and sanitation schedule changes. Obviously, we'll be closed on Monday, May 30th, in observance of Memorial Day. Pensacola City Administrative Offices, City Hall, City of Pensacola Community Resource Centers will all be closed. Also, we will not be having a press conference here. However, Osceola will remain open. Do we have something on Roger Scott?
They're closed.
Roger Scott will be closed. Since I didn't sit here, I want to be sure I had that. Again, sanitation will not be picking up on Monday. We'll move everybody one day to the next. So if you're on Monday, you'll receive your sanitation service on May 31st, which is Tuesday. If you're Tuesday, you'll go to Wednesday, June 1st. If you're a Wednesday, you'll go to Thursday, June 2nd. And if you're a Thursday like me, you'll go to Friday, June 3rd. So hopefully we'll make sure that everybody out there remembers that the garbage will be shifting back one day. So again, those are things that we know will be happening. More importantly, we will not have a press conference next week. However, we will resume on Monday, June 6th. We will resume here and have another press conference at that time. Before I get into your questions, there were a couple of things I just wanted to go over, things that are happening, and I wanted to be sure you knew what was happening. We don't comment on court cases, but I know several of y'all in the press commented on the court case last week. The only thing I'm going to comment is just a little bit of I think there was some misunderstanding in the takeaway of those things. At this point, the city believes that the city council had every right to do what they did and what they're doing, and we don't believe, if you read what happened in the case, that there's anything that challenged it. In fact, we believe the federal courts basically said that again, they are not saying the council did anything wrong. We expect to defend that. If anybody continues to sue us or challenge us at anywhere in state court, then we will do the same. It doesn't change our defense or our what our belief. Certainly, we believe that the council had every right, and we don't think the federal government should be telling us we couldn't do it. Well, again, that's our general approach out of this, and wherever it goes, we don't control. We stand by what the council has done, but we again will wait and see what happens, and I don't know what will happen further with the case. We'll pursue it as whatever it is, but wherever the venue is doesn't really change our position one way or the other. And it certainly, I think I saw some reads that I think we're saying the other part. The only thing it said was essentially that the federal court is not telling us what we can do, and we don't disagree with that. Next, I know there's been significant talk about what's happening on Carpenter's Creek. I did want to alert you to a couple things that are happening that are actually problems with the creek that we continue to address. Prior to this, I think in the last week, the contractor for 9th Avenue was cited for problems with clay coming into the creek and into the bayou from a week before. Over the weekend, obviously with a significant amount of rain, we received notice over this over the weekend. I contacted immediately with FDOT and told them that was unacceptable. They had indicated they were supposed to be getting together with the with their team to find out, and then our team. I see Amy here and I see David here, and so I've certainly included them on an email that I sent to the secretary asking our expectation after those texts from yesterday that they will draft a plan that will figure out how to solve the problem. As we indicated from a while back, we're very focused on solutions. The solutions and the problems are not what's happening at Davis Highway and Carpenter's Creek, but they are happening at 9th Avenue. And we know that is causing problems, and we were asking to address those. And we certainly have no problem communicating to DOT as we did this weekend and communicate that was unacceptable. And again, now certainly this is the second time the contractors had challenges, and we want to know what the plan is going forward. We continue to focus on those things that are solutions, and toward that end, we do not believe that involving DOT in this point of restoration is necessarily the best thing one way or the other. We continue to say the state of Florida is very much on the hook for what's happened in the Carpenter's Creek, but we do not believe that DOT needs to be the correct agency to be involved. We certainly believe DEP is the better restoration agency, I think all of you were sent a copy of correspondence from Commissioner Bender last week about what the county had done, and certainly the city's support of that as we've gone forward. I also want to recognize Commissioner Bender. He was the one out there, and again visited the creek site, took pictures to know that we had clear water on the north side of the creek and we had muddy water on the south side of the creek. I know that they do the environmental. The county does the environmental for the entire county, including the city. We've been working through them, and we'll continue to work through them. But we certainly, Amy and David were communicated to yesterday about the challenges with 9th Avenue, and we continue to ask for a plan and what's going on. We're going to stay focused on where the challenges are, and where those things are, we're going to continue to press forward. But again, we're vehemently going to defend the actions that we've done that are trying to replace and restore the creek to what it needs to be. And I think the actions that have been put forward by Wood, we've already asked for them to come forward hopefully in June. David, are they coming in June?
We were hoping for this week, but yeah, I'll say June
Okay.
at this point.
Okay. So we're shooting for June to try to get Wood here to address the council and provide those answers as to whatever needs to be done for the creek. So again, we're going to stay focused on what are the correct solutions and how we do that. Our whole goal is to take politics out of it and figure out what's scientifically the best way to improve the creek. And one of the best ways to do it is not have the issues that we have at the construction site at 9th Avenue, and we will continue to stay focused on that. So I'm open to your questions and ready to hear from you. Oh, shoot. There's one last thing, John. You just reminded me. I did want to announce also that that we talking about the bayou. We have made some discussions. I know at this point we are going to be removing the Blue Water paddle trail from Bars Creek. I've talked with Councilman Moore. I know he is planning to bring forward an initiative in June. There's been a lot of discussion about passive creeks, passive parks, and we're going to be looking to make Bars, I think through his initiative, make Bars Park a more passive park. So that is going to be going through there, and I just thought about that, John. I know you continue to ask me, and I kind of wanted to do that for you and let you know that we will be removing Bars Park from the Blue Water Paddle Trail.
Mayor, originally Bars Park was added to the trail because the state group said you needed a certain length to qualify. Does this change the ability to qualify as a certified blue paddle trail?
Well, I think we can find any number of other places to create that length. We have any number of other options. If we go all the way around to Escambia Bay, we have those options to go at. What we don't think is that Bars Park will work in that position. I very much appreciate. I know Councilman Moore hopes to bring forward an initiative that really makes Bars Park a more passive park, and if that's the position of where we want to go, we certainly support him and the initiative in dealing with the area of that park. So I think from that standpoint, we might as well find a different location and go around the other way. Yes?
What's the rationale to make it a more passive park?
I believe the issue is the concern about trees. I think that Councilman Moore would have to really get with you about his initiative. It will be coming forward in June. But I know there's been a lot of discussion about passive parks and the issue of bringing in, I know, other access to the water there and the parking lot. There's been significant discussion. I know John's brought that up multiple times here, and the challenges that bringing in additional stormwater issues to the park would be. And so I think there's definitely a position to have it more passive. Yes?
Mayor, are you going to support extending the Veterans Park bathroom temporary facility for another year?
You know, and I'm sorry we didn't have that on here, but yes, I tend to think this is exactly what we need to do, although there is a solution that we have that's much better that we've been working on. We've had a significant challenge in trying to figure out ownership and who takes care of the facility, and it really has bogged down. It's bogged Dave and his public works team down significantly in trying to get it about probably first of the year. We came up with an idea that why don't we do a couple things. All of us want the permanent restrooms, and an idea is to start move toward the permanent restrooms. I know the veterans group is trying to move toward a more permanent restroom. So very much on our side, we are coming forward with the initiative to give the extension, but to allow us to do a couple of things in June. That would be quickly what we would come back to in June. We do plan to come forward with what we think is a more reasonable thing for us to get control of the temporary bathroom. And what we've talked to the veterans group about is, why don't we buy it? And why don't we give you $100,000? But that $100,000 will only be applicable toward permanent restrooms at the park. And I think from that standpoint, they've been agreeable to that. They ultimately want to get to that point as well. If we become the owner of the facility, then it becomes easier for us to manage it all the hours. We're not having this point between trying to manage theirs and then what's their accent, what's our accent, who we do it. It's too confusing. At that point, then it becomes our asset. We can open it during the hours of operation. We can run it. We'll be in control of it, and we won't have to argue with another entity about who is responsible for which repair, which has really bogged down this. Some of the problems that we've had with it. So if we can do that and we get control of it, it will be there. It will either our plan will be there to allow it as long as we can get council to do it. But what we hope to do is as long as what we can do a permanent restroom. We hope that between some things that they've been working on and some things that if we could buy the temporary facility for that $100,000 and put that into the permanent, that we can get a permanent restroom built and get it constructed. When that restroom is constructed, we can move this off the site. However, it is very valuable to us because it is movable. We could use it if we had things. I mean, you could use it at a gallery night. You could use it any number of places. You could use the tennis tournament, Roger Scott. You could use it back in the days we were having as additional stuff over at some of the things that we had over at Legion Field. Certainly, any number of places. This thing is mobile, and it allows it to travel wherever we are having events and what's going on. It could be a part of a new service that we could provide, because there are a lot of places we go, different fields, different things that do not have as much bathroom facilities and would allow us to have restroom facilities. And not only that, an ADA restroom facility that is attached to it that would be available for usage at these events. And it would just be a way we could enhance it if it was our infrastructure and we could move it. We could move it from place to place that we needed it. I think we've seen the value in creating some of that, and that's ultimately what we are proposing. But to get it started, we need to do this, and the veterans group is certainly supportive of this as well. I think they will be in force as we have the meeting on Thursday and in discussions. They too are very committed to finding a permanent solution. That's what their goal is, and they also like the situation because once the permanent comes in essence, their temporary need kind of goes away. What do they need the asset for? And I think if it becomes a part of the city's asset, we can use it in any number of places that work for us and really help make our experiences better for the citizen. So I think it's a much better win-win.
So Mayor, just to sort of rewind here, what you're saying is the city would buy the trailer, $100,000, and then the city would assume the cost of building a new bathroom there?
I'm not saying the city's assuming all the costs. Part of those costs would have to be brought in by both the foundation. Now, the foundation believes they have something in place that's going to allow them to get to the rest of the funding they need. Of course, there were multiple people, if you remember a year ago, that showed up and said they would give all the money they needed to make it happen. So there's always that possibility. But I don't think the Veterans Association is going to rest certainly on that. Although many of the neighbors and all the people came to last year's meeting and they said, and so maybe at this year's meeting, if they show up, it'll be a good time. They can start giving them some pledge forms and they can donate and we can get toward that point. But I do believe the association has a plan for a fairly sizable amount of money if they actually thought they could get an appropriation and they're moving in that direction.
Is the for lack of going into the acronym, Citizens for the Improvement of Admiral Mason Park, they threatened the city with a lawsuit.
Well,
And,
they moved out of the lawsuit. It's not them. It's not a citizen. It's actually the development group on the north side. They are in a lawsuit. We are in a lawsuit and have been in a lawsuit since that time. That is also complicated solutions because the veterans group is also being sued in the same one. So it is somewhat complicated, the whole thing, but I think everybody agrees that a permanent restroom facility moves us out of that point and actually the developers who have been involved in that, who also have, y'all probably chronicled how many times they've come to the council and told them they don't believe they have to follow the rules that the city gave them, but anyways, they're still suing us. But despite all that, even though they've come forward, they have agreed in principle in a lot of things as to where the location. I was with some of the members of that group when they were with the veterans group, found a spot that is in the Veterans Park that was the right spot for the long-term solution. Obviously, we'd have to do a little bit of installation work to get the sewer line all the way there. But the good news is the connection's already made at least to the temporary facility, and so from a lot of ways we've already done some of the legwork to get there, and then we'd shoot all the way across the park on a different angle. So I think everybody is invested in wanting to get permanent solution, and I think the veterans group wants to get permanent solution. I think the city would like to get to a permanent solution, and I think the solution we'd like to bring forward is one that allows us to get to both a long-term permanent solution, but also allow that temporary to actually become the asset of the city, which can be well utilized in many different ways to bring more restroom facilities to park things that are going on, and not only that, make an ADA restroom facility accessible. Yes?
Just a few questions about Carpenter Creek and Davis Highway wrapped up, and I think community
Yeah.
involvement. So, do you see the issue with the embankment collapse that DOT is working on, one and the same with, the issue that Wood has presented?
Well, I think they're-
projects that Wood have presented.
I-
Do you see those as related?
I see these totally related. I mean, Wood was very clear that the bank blowouts have been occurring. There's evidence, absolutely, they've been occurring further south. He explained the whole geological formation of what's going on. My bigger fear is if again, focusing on the correct thing, which is why are we having the bank blowouts? If you don't have the bank blowout, eventually they said they're coming from the south to the north. And what's stopping at the north is the hardening that DOT has done at the bridge. What my fear is, if we don't start figuring this out geologically, our problem is going to be water, and it's not the water that is, it's not just the water that's above that you see, it's also the water underneath. Wood is talking about geological impact of how things go from general canyons form and other different things. My problem is we gotta be involved on the long-term solution, as you say, because if we don't get involved on the long-term solution, temporary solutions are not going to create the lasting impact. We could have a much worse blowout because the next blowout is going to take out the bridge at Davis Highway, and no telling what other homes or other things that it could take out further upstream. It's going to continue to grow upstream, is what Wood is going to tell you.
Do you see then DOT's work that they're doing now, shoring that embankment up, as, remediation, or just them shoring it up and then they're gone? Like this, Councilwoman Myers is talking about tree replacement and stuff like that.
We've
Is that a separate conversation, or is that even a conversation?
Well, we've never thought that this was simply a gone situation. We believe there is a restoration. I think if you saw you got what was sent from Commissioner Bender last week.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I
okay.
guess where I'm going with this is, should DOT be sent away entirely, or should they be kind of having this conversation until you get DEP fully involved in the conversation? And my next question is, how official and meaningful have your conversations been with DEP? Have they showed you NERDA money on the table, or is that kind of like?
No, they again, I think there are multiple issues. I think we get confused. I have never said the state of Florida is off the hook. I think the state of Florida that are going in this as much as we all have solutions. The state of Florida actually also has the money. They have the NERDA money, which I've indicated for a long time, and I came here, I was the one that went to that. Again, Commissioner Bender has been very focused on the solution at the actual creek, but he hasn't been focused on finding the funding. That was me that went and decided to go to DEP, because I knew they had the NERDA funding was available. I don't know any funding that DOT has to get this done one way or the other, and I think it will continue to languish if you are to do the restoration, because I mean that's not going to be what they necessarily do. So I'm not sure why we want DOT. And I think Commissioner Bender actually tried to work with DOT, as explained in the email probably 4 or 5 months ago, and they provided a solution which was not acceptable from an environmental standpoint, or really I think from a long-term solution standpoint. And that was where the discussion was, well, why don't you shore up what's there, keep it stable, so then we can move forward with what Wood is anticipating as an actual solution. What Wood is talking about doing is trying to bring the creek back, and more than anything else, trying to bring the creek bed elevation back up. I think when they show you, they'll show you a schematic that shows where it is right now, and I think it's somewhere, it's nearly 20 plus feet below where it should have originally been, where it comes out essentially, when you can see that fall when you go to the bridge and see on one side it's like right here, and on the other side it's down 20 feet below that. And that has happened not because of things to the north, it's happened because things to the south continue to blow out, and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And the problem is the erosion goes more to work at it. That's what Wood's going to tell you. That's what Wood said when we met with them. And so, I think that solution is a much more pragmatic solution as to how we get there. It's $15 million probably, and that's an estimate at this point. Everybody knows where construction cost is, what could actually happen. But in that, they're going to have to bring the creek up. They will have to do restoration. They'll have to bring up stuff that will basically get the sediment to stay while we plant new trees, while we try to create a new environment that will move forward. And I believe that Wood and whoever else DEP ultimately goes with, having them involved is a much more sound plan than having DOT involved. And again, I think the more important part is not the agency. Well, I think having the right agency involved is critically important, but I think it's having the state of Florida vested in this. We're not letting the state of Florida off the hook. I mean, we believe the state of Florida owes us restoration for this, and we're going to work through it. But we don't believe that DOT is the agency that should provide that restoration.
And you don't think they should be kept in the conversation as like a plan B or a backup?
I mean, the state will always be involved. If this is beyond their capacity, then they will always have other agencies. I mean, hey, we can get ACA involved. I don't know what they're going to do, but we got all the agencies of the state available. So, Jeremy, again, I think the question we should be asking ourselves is, do you believe DOT is the right answer for restoration, or do you think DEP is the right answer for restoration? I will put all of my money on DEP for restoration. If the issue was building a bridge, I would put all my money on FDOT. But I do not see where keeping FD and DOT involved one way or the other it has anything to do with what we're ultimately involved with. They will be involved because the state of Florida is involved, and if we need to pull them back in, they will always be available to pull back in. But DOT has a number of different problems, and while we've been focusing on Carpenter's Creek, or the Waterford at Carpenter's Creek and Davis Highway, we've got a significant clay issue that is happening from the 9th Avenue Bridge, and again, the county and the city are very much involved in addressing it, and we've communicated to DOT that it's unacceptable. So I have no problem taking DOT to task for when they have a problem. We've done that right now with the 9th Avenue Bridge. I will also say something else that came out of that meeting that Commissioner Bender's been working on, and I absolutely support him on this. He's been talking to DOT about the issue of one of the things that Wood has said is that in normal operation, normal regular flow of Carpenter's Creek, that yes, it would have been better if we could have done something like Airport where we made a whole bridge rather than have a limited part in there. But for the most part, what has been provided, the new channel, which is bigger than the old channel, will take normal flow. So the question becomes, well, what happens when we have those significant rain periods and we have overflow, and there's a big challenge of what would happen with scouring and a variety of things. In that very meeting where all of us were here with Wood, there was discussion of, why don't we talk to them about taking channels and and asking them just to take like you would bore through what you do cable or a variety of other things and put a hole through that area and put pipe in it so that if the water rises, then the water doesn't necessarily just channel, it also has an ability to go through. That is still working through the process, and my discussions with Commissioner Bender are still, that is still a live possibility for a better solution at Carpenter's Creek at 9th Avenue to help with the bridge and the diversion of water going around. So, Jeremy, we're working on solutions everywhere we can for the creek and advocating on our behalf. I don't see the reason, if I felt compelled and I felt like DOT was the right agency to be involved, I would be involved with it. And if I felt like it was we should say something that's critical for them or what's there, then I think we should be critical of what's happening. I think there's been a significant discussion of what was related to the vortex vault and the overflow. We built that totally the way we were instructed to in our DEP, our DOT permit. So from that standpoint, we built it just as it was supposed to be designed and everything else. I don't think vortex vaults in of themselves create any issues. We've put tons of them around Carpenter's Creek. They haven't created any other issue. So I don't see the vortex vault and what the city was doing as creating anything else. Ultimately, what DOT does with their own things, I think there certainly are challenges. I think if Wood was here, they would tell you no, the things that were done with that they didn't help the problem, but they would also tell you they didn't cause the problem. The cause of the problem is something much deeper, and they went through the whole thing with aerial pictures from 1940, and they went and showed everything that's been done to the issue. It's like saying, I mean, if you're trying to say that vortex vault caused the problem, well, there were a number of blowouts that are continued everywhere from 9th Avenue all the way to Davis along the creek further to the south that happened long ago. That was long before that was put in there. They've been happening, and that's the first thing that Wood's going to tell you is that what's happening is because of the size of the water. Basically, the canyon is enlarging, and these bank blowouts are going to continue to happen. They're happening from the south to the north, and if there was not a hardening standpoint of what DOT has done, it would keep going further north. Now, my only problem is if we were on Stone Rock, I was this weekend, I was up in North Carolina. If we were on granite, I would feel pretty comfortable about where we are long term. But even going long term with hardening that we do at the bridge, if we don't solve the real problem, I am very fearful that it could be decades, 30, 40 years down the road, but you could have a significant blowout that takes out the entire bridge and most of the things up there, because water is going to find a way to work its through, and it's not just the water you see on top, it's the water underneath as well. It's like I was talking to somebody else today, they said something about it, I said, you're talking about arranging deck chairs on the Titanic, and you've already hit the iceberg underneath. There's a much bigger problem occurring underneath, and that's the problem that Wood's trying to tell you about. Yes?
Mayor, back to the historic walking trail. What are your lessons learned from this? If it's a beta test for future historic walking trails.
Well, I think David would tell you he would have wished we should have been there when they started doing the paint. I don't know why that didn't happen. I think there was an expectation. We believed we would be there as they started the paint. Somehow or another, things happen. Communication happens. These things happen, and we work through them. I think there were things that we would do differently, and you learn from every one, and you take learning experience. It's why, listen, whether it's this, whether it's Carpenter's Creek, whether it's other things, there are chances for us to learn from the mistakes we made and to figure out where we go and how we do them. And I think that's where we should be focused on, as to how we create other solutions. We believe we can replicate the trail other places. But what we'd like to get done is, we didn't start it all over the place, because what we'd like to get done is understand the best way to do it and figure out those things. And you learn lessons. And it was terrible that we learned a lesson on day one, but I think we learned a valuable lesson that we should have been there understanding. I mean, our thought process was this was going to be a lot less obtrusive and noticeable than what they put down. There's also some confusion that we thought it wasn't going to go across driveways, and there was some differences of opinion that happened with that. Anyways, in a perfect world, I would have loved us to give the citizens an update as to when it was coming across and allow them to do some other choices. I think we could have allowed them to say, hey, I would be willing to put brick across my driveway as something better than this line going across there. I think we could have handled it a little bit better in a perfect world, that I would rather have handled it. But those things don't happen, so you just kind of try to pick up the pieces and go the right way. And we thought we had a better understanding. We'll learn, and we'll be better in the implementation of the next one. But I do think the overall the goal of what the trail is looking to create, I think we've seen nothing but good response from the public and an idea of what we're trying to do. And I think the effort and the idea behind what Michael Cairo wanted to do was a good thing. I think there were some things that tripped up in our execution of it, and we're going to learn like we do all the time, and we're going to be better the next time, figure out a better solution. But it helps get us in that, to learn from that experience.
Maritime Park, lots 4 and 5. What are you hearing? Are we over the deadline now?
Well, I mean, again, we're working through all the things that we're working through. I mean, if the council wants to take this to the next user, they're welcome to. I would highly discuss against that because it's a fairly complicated transaction. We realized it was not as easy as a lease and then the parking agreement. And then we started realizing it was 3 agreements. Those are 2 agreements that we've already done, that we've already sent to them. There's a 3rd agreement also about the rebate structure, or the reinvestment structure that we're going to give, that we're going to take the tax dollars that are generated and we're going to reinvest them back into the parking garage. So that whole thing with the TIF at the CRA level has also been more challenging to work through. And again, we crafted all of those documents from scratch, and every time we got a new document, it's all of a sudden it's taken a lot. Charlie has indicated that they should have it this week, but again, the whole goal is this could be around for 50 to 100 years. I mean, I think doing it right and taking the time, if you need an extra month to get done, is the right thing to do now, to make sure we don't have something that we mess up that has an impact 50 years from now.
Well, the conditions are changing rapidly on us with interest rates, materials, labor, all that. Are you hearing anything from them about the whole concept changing as a result of market conditions?
John, I think those market conditions were anticipated. If you remember, we came to you and we talked about things we put in the lease and the structure the last time we had a vote about things that we were doing, and they kept wanting to put off construction, and we said there's only so far we can put it off. And I think they were already anticipating, much of the market was anticipating that construction is going to have to be put off for some time to allow for prices and these things to level out coming through here. So I think if you want to build something today, it's going to be very challenging. I think that's why you're going to see things, see what happens if prices can level out over time and figure out where we're going. I think those are part of it. We talked about construction costs that we originally thought were going to be $18,000 to $20,000 a space for a concrete park, and then it went up to 25 by the time we were doing our agreement. I was talking to somebody else that was doing another one here in town that was looking at doing a parking deck, and they're talking about $32,000 a spot. So it's been a rapid escalation of what's happened with concrete. Again, it's one of the reasons why we felt like one of the most important things we could do is this, in this term of issues with concrete, that we could continue to work with some of the port providers that are probably going to be here 3 years from now, that provide materials that do concrete, like Martin Marietta and CMEX. We could work with them to help try to keep concrete costs from not accelerating so far. It's a huge impact on all construction prices through things. So again, we're trying to do whatever we can to help all these things intertwine. That's the real challenge that I have with a lot of things is you think you're solving it when you're looking at a very micro level, but then you step back from macro level and you're like, well, now I've just created a new problem for me somewhere else by doing something here. And I think our team has tried to take a very wide approach at the same time as what we're doing. So we're very aware of the challenges with concrete. We've tried to create a number of different solutions that could help this community in dealing with some of the shortages, but we'll keep working through them best we can.
The people with Valencia, the hotel developers out of Texas, are they still in the game?
I think there's a tremendous desire for downtown hotels right now, but the challenge is obviously construction cost, and that's what's going to be a challenge for everyone. So I don't think from their standpoint they have never changed from us. I imagine that standpoint is, at some point it's going to be ideal for us to bring a hotel downtown, but we got to do it when construction makes sense, and that's not going to make sense in the immediate future. I mean, it's going to take some time, which is why even if we do this and get all those things done, this is why we came to the council and said we've set a drop dead date in the future of what we want to do and when we want to start collecting money, and it's a couple of years out in the future. So I think that was the private sector saying we already know what's going to happen over the next couple of years, and that's why we don't want to see construction going on. There's going to be a lot of design work, and then trying to figure out how you price it where it makes sense for what your actual price will be. All right, if there's anything else, if not, thank you very much. We won't see you next week. We'll see you in 2 weeks.